Working on a tourist submarine has been an experience. I'm in charge of cleaning 15 floors of mostly empty cabins, and as it turns out, it's pretty dang expensive to book a casual trip on the ocean floor. Go figure. Something you might not expect, though, is the sounds. Wails, water pressure, the whine of the engine, and sometimes the unexplainable. To give a little context, as I'm sure you're confused, let's put it this way. Have you ever felt like you're being watched? Down here, it's not only the cameras keeping an eye on our distinguished patrons. I heard it call my name. It knew things about me, and it watches them too. In the lowest section, where the steam generators relentlessly churn away and the high-pressure pipes hiss at you as you walk by, something dwells in the shadows. Its eyes always calculate, always studying. It all started months ago, right here on the Seabed Continental. I was doing my nightly rounds, having just finished cleaning the guest cabins and making my way down to the crew deck. That's the first time I heard it. I checked my watch walking down the creaky stairs, 2:56 a.m. For days, every time I checked, it always hovered around 3 in the morning. The red light they use on the lower decks is great for night vision, and more than a little eerie, especially the way it played with the steam and made the already dark corners look like something might just reach out and grab you as you walk by. I turned the corner leading to the generator room, the smell of Terrence's burnt chili still stuck in the air, and that's when I heard its voice, a chorus of everyone I ever knew and infinitely more than I could recognize. "Christopher," it said, matter-of-factly. I stumbled back, smacking my head on a low-hanging pipe. As much as it hurt, I was too scared to scream. As I rubbed the back of my head, my ears strained against the usual white noise. Nothing. Not even Jerry, who was usually singing sea shanties around that time. Just silence. But I felt it. Ahead, behind the steam generators, just out of sight. The shadows stretched there, searching, feeling. That was it for me. I scrambled back towards my dorm, determined to call it a night. The captain would have my ass in the morning, but I didn't care.
3 days, it said, as I barged through the door. I was going crazy, I thought, but it was right. The next night was when things started getting weird. It seemed like every time I turned the corner, I could see its eyes, like red marbles surrounded by glowing blue light, unmoving and all-seeing. In the men's washroom, they stared at me from a crack in one of the stalls as I wiped the mirror. In the kitchen, from the vents, as Kenneth said something about how his wife might be cheating. I told him that it's part of the job. After the long night, I retired to my dorm. As I laid down to catch some shut-eye, they bore into me from the cracks, the shadows. Everywhere they might have hidden, they were there. I buried my head under my pillow, trying to ignore it. It didn't care. "Bring them to me," it said, directly into my mind this time, and for some reason I knew exactly what it meant. It wanted the patrons, their ring fingers specifically. Now, as much as I wanted to please the supernatural entity plaguing my every waking hour, I couldn't go around chopping off fingers for obvious reasons. So I knew I needed to talk to someone about all this, and the only person who might have believed me came to mind: Jerry. On the second night, I found Jerry singing about mermaids, and those unfortunate enough to stumble close enough to hear their wails. He was peeling potatoes, one finger missing, his brown and gray beard stained yellow at the sides. His eyes crinkled into a familiar, welcoming smile as I approached, a missing tooth winking from his grin. "Hey there, Swabby, what can I do you for?" he said in his usual upbeat tone. I leaned against the counter and took a deep breath. The words blurted out of me. "You ever feel like you're being watched?" My cheeks grew hot when he didn't speak straight away. Jerry placed the peeler on his lap and stroked his beard. "Now ain't that a question? What do you reckon is watching you, lad?" I tapped my fingers against the stainless steel. It wasn't like I had anything to lose, I thought. "There's a entity on the ship. It's watching me and everyone else here." The words felt stupid leaving my lips. I couldn't look him in the eye.
Jerry hummed, his smile gone. He stared at the bucket of peeled potatoes for a long moment. He had never spoken so seriously before. "It don't like to wait. It won't wait." I was frozen, speechless. Jerry knew what it was, and he must have dealt with it in the past. I went to speak, but he started back up with the potatoes. "Do what you gotta do, lad, and do it fast." I felt like there was nothing more to say. I backed away and made for the generator. There, I would find my answers. The steam generators seemed to cry out as I neared the door. I twisted the handle. It screeched as metal scraped against metal, then clicked. I pushed it open. The red light wasn't quite bright enough to see far into the back. I clenched my fists and took that first step. Nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. Pipes spat out steam as I skulked towards the hulking generators. Light shifted and bent the closer I got to the rear. Inky shadows swallowed the back of the room. A blob of wiggling mass that pulled me in like it had its own gravitational pull. Sweat burned my eyes and dripped down my nose. My calves knotted as my body tensed. It shot out like vines, wrapping itself around the hanging lights, inside the turbines, and around my legs. When it touched me, I felt the whole ship. I could see everything it saw. Married women with married men, expensive champagne, photos of vacationing children. It wanted things to be right, its version of right. My legs grew weak, and I fell to the floor. "Why?" I demanded. "This is what you want. Your ex-wife found out first hand." "No, I didn't." Then the shadows erupted into a waterfall. My wife's muffled cries filled my head. I remembered the feeling of her cheek under my foot and the weight of the garden shears in my hand. I savored the sick crunch when the sharp steel cut through bone and the warm, sticky blood that covered my digits as I picked up hers from the floor. I buried her ring finger in the backyard, under the tree we had planted after reciting our vows. A searching tentacle swam towards my forehead, and at the same time, its voice grew the size of the ocean. "Bring them to me, one finger for each year, an unbroken vow." It slithered its way into my eyes, wrapping its claws around the soft meat inside. It tore itself free, taking a part of me with it. Profound emptiness settled in my gut. A deep cold washed over my emotions. I became less. When I opened my eyes, everything was clear. I pushed myself up
and made for the utility closet, clamping the large pair of bolt cutters. I gave it a few snips, admiring the way the rubber grip felt in my palms, then hoisted it over my shoulder. I said, "Some people don't know what's important anymore." The creature's joy settled in my ribs, its purpose seemingly fulfilled. I smiled, but it felt forced. Jerry stood at the entrance, ankles crossed, nursing a cigarette. He nodded at me. "You don't have to embrace it fully, lad." He took a long puff, then threw the butt onto the grated floor in an explosion of embers. "This is what freedom costs." His eyes hardened. My stomach dropped as he pointed towards his ring finger. "Pay the price, or join the others." I looked down at my left hand, thinking about all those cabins I'd have to clean tomorrow. I said, "It'll be harder with 9 fingers." He said, "You get used to it, lad." It wasn't just a rash. It was one of those rare Saturdays that I had nothing going on. Though I wasn't much of an outdoors woman, to fight the boredom of a long summer day inside, I went on a hike. I say hike, but what I had planned was nothing more than a walk through the woods on the edge of town. Still, it gave me something to do. Bag packed, I hopped into my car and parked near the trailhead I'd seen from the road countless times. The warm air surrounded me as I stepped into the shade of the dense forest. I savored the forest air in deep breaths. The only sounds were the wind rustling the leaves and my own footsteps. The peace, the seclusion. I had made the right decision.
At least I thought. Despite being my first time hiking, the thrill of it all had me feeling adventurous. So, when the trail passed alongside a glistening lake that I never knew even existed, I did something very unlike myself. I stripped down, folded my clothes neatly on a nearby log, and waded into the water for a swim. The sun was bright, the water startlingly cool. I swam for maybe 20 minutes, drifting through the center of the lake until I felt I was pushing my luck. Surely someone would see me before too long. I climbed out of the water and let the sun dry me off. I got dressed and finished my hike. I felt accomplished, like maybe I'd become the sort of person who went hiking. On my drive home, I noticed the rash for the first time. A red spot circled by inflammation, raised slightly, about the diameter of a quarter. It looked like a bite. I called it one, dismissed it as one, tried not to inspect it too much. But the next morning, it was larger. The red circle had widened to the size of a golf ball, slightly raised above the rest of my skin. Not itchy, not painful, but impossible to forget. Over the next few days, my hand kept moving back to it, drawn there subconsciously, lingering on a growth that felt inert, until once or twice, it didn't. By the end of the week, the rash was nearly the size of a baseball. Darker red now, bulging, almost taut. And I would swear I felt it move. That's when I went to see Dr. Rodney. He was a jolly man, unassuming, habitually kind, the sort of doctor you don't mind visiting. I believed he'd prescribe a cream and send me off with mild reassurance. The face he made when he saw my leg indicated otherwise. He said, leaning in to inspect it more seriously. "Let me check something just to be sure." He returned with a device that resembled a magnifying glass, but where the glass would have been, there was a round screen. When he swept it over my leg, he muttered a single word, low, almost to himself. "Corrid." Then he looked at me. "Riley," he said, and the jolliness was gone, "have you been swimming in Gem Lake?" I hadn't known the name of the lake, but the fact that I was being asked told me I probably was. "I went swimming in a lake last week," I said.
Rhinocorp really needs to do something about that mess, he muttered, pacing once in a tight circle. "You've been infected with a parasite called a corrid." I looked down at my leg, at the swollen red membrane, trying to picture what was growing underneath. "Can you get it out?" I asked. He shook his head solemnly. "That's part of the bad news. Corrids wrap themselves around important anatomy. They can do catastrophic damage when disturbed." He must have seen the terror in my expression, because he softened a bit, leaning in. "Oh, but we will take care of it," he said. "Here's what I need you to do." And he told me the rules. Pack your bathing suit in your car. Do not shower. Do not enter any water whatsoever. When you feel the urge, the pull towards a body of water so strong you can hardly resist it, that means the corrid is almost ready to emerge. When that happens, call me immediately. Come here, no matter the hour. I tried to ask more questions, but Dr. Rodney was light on answers. I think he was trying to protect me, but all it did was give me more to worry about in the days to come. I tried looking up corrids on the internet, but the search came up dry. Whatever was inside me, it wasn't common. As if I could, I tried my best to live as normal in the days to come. But I spent an inordinate amount of time staring at the lump on my leg, which was taking on more revolting properties by the day. Besides continuing to grow and moving much more regularly, I could now see a black mass pass across the surface of the lump every so often. It took everything within me not to cut the thing out myself. Almost anything would be better than remaining a home to this mysterious and revolting creature. Though the days dragged, by Monday afternoon, I felt what Dr. Rodney said I would, the urge to get into a body of water. It came on subtly at first, but as soon as I detected it, I got changed into my bathing suit, hopped into my car, and sped over to Dr. Rodney's office. But by the time I pulled into the parking lot, the urge was so severe that I almost plunged myself into the fountain in front of the building. I didn't even stop to think twice about how strange I must have looked heading into a doctor's office in my bathing suit. Dr. Rodney was waiting for me in the lobby and led me into a back room. There in the center of the white-tiled exam room was a large metal bathtub already filled with water. "Get in," he said. I didn't need the instruction. I don't think I could have lasted another moment outside that tub. The draw was so strong, I'd never felt anything like it in my life. "What do I do now?" I asked, turning to Dr. Rodney, but only in time to see the door slam behind him. My heart skipped a beat. "Hello?" I shouted, but a small slot in the door opened, and Dr. Rodney's face appeared on the other side. "I'm sorry, Riley, but there are certain liabilities that prevent me from being in the room with you. Contamination risks and other dangers. But I'll be right here, walking you through every step. I wanted to argue. I wanted to jump out of the tub and bash open the door, but it's not like my body would even allow me to do that. With a defeated sigh, I said, "Fine. What do I do now?" The Corrid will soon emerge. It releases a powerful anesthetic, so you won't feel a thing. But whatever you do, don't disturb it until it has full exited your body. I did my best to remain calm. Deep breaths.
I felt the Corrid moving rapidly inside me, but the lump remained sealed. Soon, however, something began to poke at the apex of the mound on my thigh. The skin grew taut as something black pressed hard against it from inside. It broke through, releasing a thin strand of blood into the water. I shuddered and squirmed, but couldn't look away. Soon, a thin, black, worm-like appendage was slithering through the ever-widening wound. I grasped the edge of the tub in a desperate effort not to reach down and yank the thing out of me. It just kept coming. Long, slimy, and fluke-like, it wriggled out of my thigh with painstaking slowness. My nerves were shot. I heaved deep, nervous breaths as my eyes were locked onto the thing emerging from my body. It may have been 2 feet long or longer before the last of it slipped from my open wound. I freaked out, reaching for the Corrid which was gliding through the water near my knee, and tried to toss it out of the tub. It was a mistake. The thing, which had until now moved slowly and lazily, stiffened up at being touched, and in a flash recoiled back and bit me in the arm. I managed to toss the thing onto the tile floor, but not without ripping a large gash out of my upper arm where its mouth had attached. Bleeding from my arm and my thigh, I scrambled out of the tub and toward the exit. "Let me out!" I shouted, banging on the door. "I can't open the door while the Corrid is still alive," Dr. Rodney said calmly. I turned around and froze. The Corrid was changing form. While it appeared in the water to be a long, worm-like creature, the Corrid actually had limbs. 4 black appendages split off from the center of the thing. 2 of them functioned something like legs, while the other 2 wriggled wildly up near its gaping mouth. It hissed and snapped its jagged teeth at me, but it didn't come any closer. "There's a bat on the table over there. Kill the Corrid, and this will all be over." I rushed over to the bat, keeping my eye on the monster before me, expecting it to strike at any moment. But it remained planted in place. Shaking, I stepped toward the Corrid, bat raised over my head. It snapped, it flailed, but it didn't approach. Just as it was near enough to take a swing, it pounced, far faster than I could have expected. My swing missed, and it latched onto my calf. Pain shot through my leg as I tried to shake it off with a kick, but it held on. I struck at it wildly with the bat, hitting myself as often as I hit it, but eventually something worked, and the Corrid released. That's when, with as much strength as I could muster, I brought the bat down squarely on the awful thing. It shrieked and feebly tried to writhe away. But my next strike fell. And then another. Greenish goo splattered from the Corrid as I bashed the motionless heap in a terrified frenzy. Finally, shaking and out of breath, I dropped the bat and burst into sobs. Dr. Rodney was by my side shortly after. "I'm sorry I had to surprise you like that. I didn't want you to worry too much beforehand, but you did a great job."
I responded, but I doubt it was decipherable through my hysteria. "Let's get you patched up," he said. 15 stitches later, I was walking out of Dr. Rodney's office on my way home. And while I'm happy to be cord-free, my mind still goes back to that lake. Every once in a while, the urge rises in me to go back for another swim.